Welcome to the Bakersfield City Council meeting. This television broadcast is brought to you by the local cable companies, the County of Kern, and the City of Bakersfield. You can watch the rebroadcast of this meeting Saturday at 7 p.m., Sunday at 10 a.m., and the following Wednesday at 7 p.m. You can download the agenda for this meeting at www.bakersfieldcity.us. Presiding over this evening's meeting, the Honorable Mayor Karen K. Go.
Good evening. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the 5:15 City Council meeting of November 20th, 2019. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mayor Go.
Here.
Vice Mayor Parlier.
Here.
Council members Rivera. Here. Gonzalez.
Here.
Weir. Smith.
I'm here.
Freeman.
Here.
Sullivan.
Thank you. Well, welcome to all of you. And we see we have a lot of students here today. Looks like we have the Young Assembly members. Is that who just walked in? From Assemblyman Rudy Salas's office. We also have a representative from Senator Melissa Hurtado's office. And welcome Council Supervisor David Couch. You were here a minute ago. And there you are. All right, very good. And then we also have students from Bakersfield College and CSUB. Welcome to all of you, and thank you so much for engaging in the civic process. Tonight we have the pleasure of having Rabbi Schlanger from the Chabad of Bakersfield lead us in the opening prayer. And the Chabad has been so active in doing good things for the community. It's been my pleasure to be out there many times and just observing the very good things and the joy that you bring to our community. And following the invocation, we have two very, very special guests, and they are, again, Bakersfield superstars. So Alina Young and Katie Yakovich are the captains of the Centennial High School girls varsity tennis team, and they have accomplished something rather wonderful. They're the CIF Central Section Team Academic Champions for the fall, and they beat out 738 sports teams and 125 schools to achieve this very, very high honor. So, Rabbi, we'll have you come first and lead us in the prayer, and then we'll have our captains lead us in the invocation, in the pledge, and they'll be able to introduce their guests also. So, would you all please stand?
Honorable Mayor, council members, thank you for having me here this evening. The Lubavitcher Rebbe, Rabbi Menachem Mendel Schneerson of blessed memory, the leader of the Chabad Lubavitch movement worldwide, taught his followers, his students, to bring attention to the world, the idea of the 7 universal Noahide laws, reminding us that it would bring peace, prosperity, and God's intention for the world to be a garden rather than a jungle. The 7 Noahide laws are as follows: that all mankind should believe in one God, don't curse God's name, don't murder, don't steal, don't commit immorality, believe in courts of justice, and don't cause harm to God's creatures by eating out of a live animal. If with your permission, I'd like to repeat a prayer that was written and said in front of the United States Senate by the former Chief Rabbi of England, Dr. Lord Jonathan Sacks. And here goes. God of the universe, who created all in love, teach us to love all that is good and beautiful in this world. Teach us to honor the dignity of difference, recognizing that one who is not in our image is nonetheless in your image, never forgetting that the people not like us are still people like us. At this fateful moment in human history, bless us that we may be a blessing to others. Guide the nations of the world to honor you by honoring one another, so that by reaching out in love, we may turn enemies into friends and become your family on earth as you are our parent in heaven. Beloved God, bless the members, the Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council here in Bakersfield, and guide their deliberations, that they may govern this city with wisdom and justice, grace and compassion, bringing honor to your name and your blessing to humankind. Let us say amen.
Amen.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Rabbi. And Katie and Alina, if you come forward now and lead us in the pledge, and then you can introduce your guests after that.
Pledge salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated, and go ahead and introduce your guests. I'm going to come down.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having us here. I'd like to introduce my parents, Ulia and Jeff. They're standing right over there. And I'd also like to introduce one of our teammates and best friends who's been on the team for 4 years with us, Paige Klepper.
I'd also like to introduce my parents, Janice and Brian Yakovich. Brian is also our assistant coach.
And a round of applause to the support. And it's my honor to present this to your team. And so here's a certificate and a medal for your display case. Thank you so much. Congratulations. You are our superstars. Thank you for representing Bakersfield so well. And to you also. Thank you. Thank you. Alina has a 4.5 GPA, and Katie has a 3.92. So right up there, fantastic, and thank you so much for bringing honor to the Hawks and bringing honor to our city. Here are a few guidelines to help our meeting run smoothly. We'd request that you turn off your phones. In keeping with council policy, council members aren't allowed to receive or send electronic communications during the meeting. We ask you to be courteous in the use of cameras and videos. Applause is allowed during the presentations portion of the meeting, but it isn't allowed at other times. And for safety reasons and as a courtesy to others, no signs are allowed in the council chambers. Thank you so much for your cooperation. And Madam Clerk, now would you please read the first item? And you're free to leave at any time, and you're welcome to stay, so whatever you choose.
Under presentations, check presentation of $500 for spring term sponsorship by Rob Ducal, Public Affairs Manager for Kern County and Antelope Valley Southern California Gas Company, to Heather Pania, Chair of Keep Bakersfield Beautiful.
Southern California Gas Company, we are so honored to have you in our community. Thank you so much for your community support. I see you at so many events, and we really appreciate your investment in our community. It's my honor to have with us Rob Ducal.
Duco. You got it.
Sorry.
Yes.
Oh,
Thank you, Mayor, council members. For more than 150 years, Southern California Gas Company has been delivering safe, reliable, and affordable energy to our customers, and we're proud to be involved in the communities where our employees and customers live and work. And sponsorship of the Keep Bakersfield Beautiful program is just one example of that involvement in the community, and it's a pleasure to be here tonight with you and Mayor Go to present this to Heather on behalf of SoCal Gas and our customers.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
And on behalf of Keep Bakersfield Beautiful, I would just like to thank you, Rob. This helps us, a committee of volunteers, keep our mission going of encouraging and educating citizens of Bakersfield on proper trash disposal, leading cleanups, and just having a presence in town to keep Bakersfield beautiful.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Let's take a photo. Bring the check here. Thank you very much. At this time, we'll receive public statements. All statements are given a 3-minute time limit, 15 minutes per topic. If you have written comments that are longer than your verbal statements, we would ask you to give those to the clerk. She'll give copies to the council. Please avoid any behavior that would be disruptive to the meeting. We're very interested and concerned with your issues. Due to the Brown Act and the public notice requirement, the council can't take any action when an item isn't on the agenda. However, the council can refer your requests to committee or request that staff follow up with you. So now, Madam Clerk, would you read the first public statement?
The first public statement is from Mr. David Couch.
Welcome, Supervisor.
Thank you, Mayor and council members and staff. First of all, I want to just make a comment before I get started. I want to thank Alan for his years of service to the city of Bakersfield. I probably won't be back to one of your meetings before your last day, Alan, and I just want you to know that a lot of us very much appreciate the work that you've done and all the things you've done for the city of Bakersfield. I'm really here tonight to express the county's willingness to cooperate with the city of Bakersfield to address homelessness. I don't know that we've ever publicly stated that before. I think we've had lots of conversations among ourselves, but we've never actually stated that publicly. As you know, we're moving forward with a low barrier navigation center down on Golden State Avenue, or Golden State Highway rather. And we don't really pretend to know all you're grappling with your project, but we want you to know that we want you to be successful. We would like to work with you on your project to ensure its success if we can. We'd like you to invite you to be part of our project if you choose to be. We just think that this is a problem, homelessness, that is on everyone's minds, and everyone wants us to do something about it and do something positive. And we think this is a perfect time for the city and the county to cooperate, to serve our citizens, to serve those people that are unfortunately homeless, but really to tackle a problem that everyone would like to see us work together on. We're more than willing to be part of any sort of ad hoc committee you might have in mind, or any type of committee structure, just to make sure that we're all on the same page moving forward and doing the best that we can for those unfortunate souls that are homeless and for our citizens and taxpayers. I'm here to answer any questions, but I really just wanted to put on the record our willingness to cooperate with the city of Bakersfield.
Thank you very much, Supervisor Couch. We appreciate this, and Supervisor Couch is chairman of the Board of Supervisors. Councilmember Rivera has a request to speak.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Supervisor, for your comments. We actually have 2 vacant chairs. I don't know where you used to sit when you were here, but you're welcome to join us for the rest of this evening if you want. I appreciate what you came here to say. I had the opportunity yesterday with you and county staff and another supervisor and Vice Mayor Parlier to visit the facility the county is working on now at Golden State, and got an opportunity to learn a little bit more about where you guys are at and how quickly you're moving, and what potential exists out there in the future. And it actually, to me, seemed quite promising. I was rather impressed. And I think it's something, especially based on, I think, your comments and your willingness to maybe partner together, which I think is a necessary ingredient to really wrapping our heads around homelessness and really addressing this issue. I think the city and the county should be in unison. We should be in partnership on this issue. We should be utilizing resources together. We should be tackling issues together, and we should be on the same page together. That I'm hoping we'll take the opportunity to take you up on your offer. There's at least one item I'd like to ask staff to follow up on, and that is the potential for a partnership with the County of Kern on their facility at Golden State. And if a partnership exists, what would an agreement look like? What needs are there? What needs might the city might be able to help fill, and then to bring that back to the council for some discussion and consideration. And then I think in tandem with that, I had another conversation earlier this week with some folks on the homeless provider front who do this for a living, who know this issue very well. And it's my understanding that there's actually potential for additional bed expansion along the lines of or bed expansion that's in addition to beds we've already funded here at the City Council. So I'm also hoping to, I'd like to ask staff to touch base with, I see here that I just opened it up actually. It's a groundbreaking, or it's a project reveal for 40 beds coming online at the Mission, which the city is funding. I'd like to make sure they have everything they need to get that done. I'd like to make sure that's the case with the Bakersfield Homeless Center. And then I'd like for us to have a conversation with those folks about whether or not there's an opportunity to expand expand emergency beds and get stuff online even quicker. And if that's possible, then what do they need? And I'd like for us to explore that as well. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please, Madam Clerk.
We have 4 remaining speakers. The next is Nick Ortiz.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. Nick Ortiz, talking about your favorite issue, homelessness. I apologize that I was not able to be at the last council meeting, but we were represented and sent a letter to your council about our views on homelessness. Here are my top kind of issues, which are homelessness has been identified as a key issue, not just because of media attention, but our members, the largest employers in Bakersfield, have identified that as the priority issue that they want local government action on and they want the chamber engaged in. We have also seen the voters speak about this in their approval of Measure N, and one of the top priorities and one of the ways that it was sold is around helping to alleviate some of the issues in Metro Bakersfield around homelessness and around public safety. And I and my members and my board are very concerned that there is a potential that the promises made to the voters around Measure N may go undelivered. And I appreciate, and my membership appreciates, the great work of staff, the leadership of the council in getting the Measure N money programmed as quickly as possible for a number of priorities that include quality of life and public safety. But unfortunately, it's like the squeaky wheel gets the grease. This is the issue that everyone wants your action on. A low barrier shelter, if you talk to the service providers, is one of the key components of a multi-pronged, multi-agency, multi-governmental approach to combating homelessness. And I am very concerned about waiting until next year to address this issue. Now, if there are alternatives, if there are options that need to be put in front of your council and the public, then let's start to have that conversation. And I would encourage that to happen well before the end of this year. And I will tell you where our membership is. We just had a government review council meeting where Mr. Tandy was our guest speaker, and while homelessness was not the subject of the conversation, it inevitably came up. And my membership did not want me to soft pedal this at all. They wanted me to come and tell you that we reaffirm our letter sent last week, that we believe your staff's work on Calcott, on the plan, is a well thought out proposal and probably the best we've seen in terms of tackling this issue. Now, I think we'd be open to conversations about, is there other options? But I fear that we will fall into the same trap that happened last time around. So I would urge you to either direct staff to talk to the county, to refer this to a committee of the council, to engage with the county to create an ad hoc so we can begin to have that dialogue. Again, I appreciate your leadership. I know this is a tough issue, probably one of the toughest you face. And at the chamber, we just really want to support the city. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ortiz. Councilmember Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to respond to Mr. Ortiz and Supervisor Couch and their comments. First and foremost, Supervisor Couch, I appreciate you coming today and offering to partner. I think it's important that the city and the county partner together to address this issue. In fact, many of us have been in conversations with various supervisors and county staff throughout the past year and a half with regard to an emergency shelter, and it's important that we continue to do so. And as we look towards what the solution is for the city and a city shelter, that the county is at the table, because certainly we rely on county departments to provide services for that shelter. You know, when the city council gave direction to city staff to come back within 30 days with their purchase sale agreement on September 11th. We did so with staff's understanding that they would research potential sites with the following criteria. One, that the location would exist in an M2 zone. Two, that it would be buffered from sensitive uses. Three, that there would be room to co-locate service providers on site. And four, the ability to design a layout that meets security needs. And I think it's important that as we move forward to continue to examine each option with those criteria, with that criteria in mind. But in addition to that, I think it's important for us to look at the need. We have over 643 unsheltered people in Metro Bakersfield. When we campaigned for Measure N, or when we presented Measure N, we stated that we would, as a city, significantly impact this issue and reduce the number of unsheltered people who are on our streets. And so I think it's important for us, when we come back and when staff comes back with various options, that we include in that analysis the various different options and how many beds it includes, how many beds it adds to the entire system. Because we need to look at that. We need to significantly impact this growing problem. And by the way, next January is a new point in time count, and the numbers are only going to increase. And so it's really important, I believe, for us to think about this in terms of how are we going to reduce the number of people on the streets in a significant way. The other point I want to make is this is not just about giving someone a bed for the night. We know that to long-term effectively reduce the number of people who are experiencing homelessness, we must have the appropriate wraparound services provided within that facility in order to move them out of the shelter into permanent housing. And so wherever we go, the location must have significant room for those service providers to provide those services. And so I'd like us to also analyze each option based on the capacity that those facilities will have to provide for those support services. And that's my referral.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Next speaker is Cassie Biddle.
Welcome. Please introduce yourself.
Good to see everybody. My name's Cassie Biddle, and I've been a resident of Westchester for about 8 years now. I know this isn't on the agenda, and I don't want to waste your time, so I did print off my kind of comments for this subject, so you can look it over tonight when you get home. But what I'm here to do is urge you, we cannot wait until January 22nd to relook at the Calcott's location. Our city staff has done a fantastic job putting together what I think is the gold star of shelters for Bakersfield. Just like Willie, I have a shelter being put in my backyard too, in my community, but the difference is I'm not opposing it. I have my county that's willing to work with us to be able to provide a solution for our community as a whole. I think that it's very important that our city relook at the Calcots way before January. January is after the holidays, and this isn't going to give us anything good to look for to the new year. Our people are still suffering, our businesses are suffering, and it's just important that we work on this now. I printed off a copy of the city's plan, and I show it to every customer, every friend, or anybody that's willing to listen to me, because I know in my heart they did what we asked them to do. Not only have you provided downtown with cleanup, proper security, even our own police task force, but all of those are only solutions to the problem that needs to be looked at, finding shelter beds. So riding on the county's coattails and helping them with their shelter is something that's going to help us, but we have to act as well. It's our turn to step up and use Measure In to build our own shelter. So please, I urge you to look at this again before January 22nd. We as a community cannot wait that long. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Biddle. Next speaker, please. Sir.
Next speaker is Blair Budai.
Welcome. Please
Thank you.
introduce yourself. Would you raise the mic, please?
Thank you. I'm Blair Budai. I'm a resident in Westchester also for 13 years and since before I was born. And I am also a business owner. I also was a neighborhood watch commander for my area that affected me and changed my heart to seeing that the problem is a homeless problem. No. The homeless aren't the problem. They are people with a problem. Big change. Started a homeless ministry. And I also have a business, and now I'm a block-to-block captain. So I see this from a lot of different hats. And I am presenting in regards to something, Andre Gonzalez's presentation at the block-to-block captain meeting yesterday morning. And I want to thank you for seeking to address this homeless issue. And it is a big issue. It's just not, but it's not there's not a fast and easy fix, nor is this, it's not just a city issue, it's a state issue, it's a national issue. It's a big deal. And need for housing is, they don't have enough beds. We know that. Thankful for the mission, coming up with, getting the 40 beds for them. Plans for shelters are going to be challenged, and as the previous speaker said, but it's going to take it's going to take resolve and commitment to get that done. Regarding public concerns, okay, provided the rapid response team, that's great, fast action, but they just move. And these people who don't have a place now have to move and find someplace else, or it's not enough beds. We need that action to provide the beds. And the county is doing something for which I'm thankful. And it is, it's in my backyard. Well, thankful that they have a place. These are our neighbors, and these people are not homeless because of this or this, but more often symptoms. There's underlying issues, maybe even societal issues that are bringing those about. And I see humble people that are homeless for so many issues, and they seek to contribute and to get out of that, but the resources aren't there. Regarding Calcott, great, it's another step, but the homeless don't move as easily as providers do. Why? And so I encourage you to not just make a one-stop shop for everybody, all the homeless of this, 16th largest city in Bakersfield of state, and allowing rather than having the homeless commute, have providers commute, because that too, that would truly serve our neighbors and a large part of our population, perhaps even better. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Budai. Next speaker, please.
Jim Wheeler.
Welcome. Please introduce yourself.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Honorable Council members. Jim Wheeler. I live here in Bakersfield. 93309 is my zip code. I also work in the homeless service provider industry. I want you to know that what I'm going to say tonight comes from my heart. And it's not meant to be disrespectful to any of you in any way. But I've been stewing since the last meeting, and I have to get this off my chest. 1 year ago, November 7th, 2018, This council declared a shelter crisis 1 year ago. In part, the resolution read, whereas City of Bakersfield finds that the number of homeless in our community is significant and increasing, and these persons are without ability to obtain shelter, and whereas the City of Bakersfield finds that the health and safety of unsheltered persons in the city is threatened by a lack of shelter, and whereas the City of Bakersfield affirms the city's commitment to combating homelessness and creating or augmenting a continuum of shelter and service options for those living without shelter in our community. I looked up the word crisis. One of the definitions, and all of the definitions of crisis, indicate that it requires a difficult decision to be made quickly in response to the crisis. And so I'm having a hard time reconciling your action 1 year ago in declaring a shelter crisis with your lack of inaction at the last meeting. Your unwillingness to move forward makes it appear that this council doesn't believe that we are truly facing a crisis with homelessness. Today I drove around the city on most of your wards, and I saw numerous individuals wet and cold, without shelter and no place to go. And here we are waiting until January 22nd to take up the issue again. As a former pastor, I'm well acquainted with Romans 13 and Paul's charge to be respectful of our public officials. And I truly mean no disrespect to any of you. On the other hand, as public servants, I encourage you, do not let politics get in the way of doing the right thing. Flood has been out in the streets encountering individuals. And the first few months of our contract with the county, we've engaged over 500 unique individuals on the streets. Their last permanent addresses were 93301 zip code, 93304 zip code, 93305, 93306, 93307, 93308, 93309, 93310, 93311, and 93312. All of your wards cover those zip codes. I encourage you, let's move forward and let's not put this off any longer. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wheeler. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Under consent calendar,
Mayor, I had a request.
Oh, I didn't. Councilmember Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. We've had 4 statements that have asked us to move faster, and I think there's some problems with doing something different than what the motion was at the last meeting. And so I would like the city attorney to explain if there are any options, how could we move faster if we wanted to?
Mayor, Councilmember Smith, thank you for the opportunity to explain. But pursuant to Robert's Rules of Order and the Brown Act, the only way that anything could have been done is a motion for reconsideration, which would have been placed on tonight's agenda. That was not done, and even had that been done with the unanimous vote last time of 6-0, it was unlikely that the motion to reconsider would have been passed. But in any event, there is nothing legally that we can do at this point to have that motion come back before the council before January 22nd.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify that. I agree with the speakers that a crisis needs fast action, but the decision was made, and I think that at this point we're stuck with it to January 22nd, is my understanding. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
under consent calendar, items 8A through 8R for approval. Staff memorandum was received regarding item 8C, transmitting revision to the memorandum of understanding between the city and employees of the blue and white collar units, and an additional memorandum was received regarding 8R, transmitting a copy of the agreement with contractor signatures.
Thank you. Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. Does any council member wish to recuse themselves from an item? Does any council member wish to remove an item for separate consideration? Seeing none, I'd like to make a motion to approve consent calendar items 8A through 8R with the exception, correction, along with the noted agenda corrections by the city clerk.
Thank you. You have a motion. Please cast your votes.
Motion is approved.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Under new business, wastewater revenue refunding bonds. 1, approve plan directing staff to move forward with refinancing of wastewater revenue refunding bonds, Series 2015A. 2, agreement with Kutak Rock LLP, the amount of $100,000 for special bond counsel services associated with financial planning for the proposed tax-exempt forward refunding of wastewater revenue refunding bonds. 3, amend agreement with Nixon Peabody LLP for disclosure counsel services, adding the wastewater revenue refunding bonds to existing contract for a total not to exceed amount of $90,000.
Thank you. Mr. McKeegan?
Thank you very much. Honorable Mayor, council members, can we pull up that? Thank you very much. So this evening before you, I have an item to present related to the wastewater operations and the opportunity we have to significantly reduce bond services costs going forward for the next 13 years. This has been brought about by the continued historical low bond rates for municipal bonds, and to give credit where credit is due, admirable planning and forethought by the prior finance director, Nelson Smith. So this specifically allows us to refinance or refund a portion of the wastewater bond necessary that was issued in 2007 related to the sewage treatment plant upgrades at Plant 3 at McCutcheon Road in Southwest Bakersfield. So let's go. So just kind of to review the history of how we got where we are today. In 2007, the city issued a bond of $234 million to cover the cost of those upgrades at Plant 3. This was the largest capital improvement project the city had undertaken at that time, and the improvements of Plant 3 were completed in 2010. The improvements increased capacity of that plant from 16 million gallons per day to a max capacity of 32 million gallons per day. The bonds were issued in 2 series. Series A for $190 million was a fixed rate bond. Series B was a $44 million bond, which was a variable rate bond. That was designed that way to allow us to have the flexibility to make advance payments on that variable rate bond, which was actually taken, and in 2017, July 2017, we completed paying off that $44 million bond. In 2015, we refunded the Series A bond for $144.5 million, creating a savings of about $800,000 a year in debt service costs. This also allowed us to create an option. Within the pricing and the plan that we had in that 2015 bond, there was an optional redemption for $25 million, which is available to us in September 2020. That option was placed in the bond specifically because we had the plan to potentially have up to $25 million in reserves to pay that bond or call that bond completely. We do not have that level of reserves currently, but we do have about $12 million of reserves to pay against or redeem against that $25 million callable bond, which leaves us the option to refinance the remaining amount of $13 million in what's called a forward refunding. That differs from what we occurred in 2015. An advance refunding was what the process that we took forward in 2015, but a forward refunding only allows us to refinance the amounts that are callable up to 90 days in advance of that call date. This is why we are only being able to restructure about the $25 million and not the available, the remaining amount of that series 2015 bond is $140 million, but we can only refinance $25 million of that. So the plan we have available to us is a forward refunding for the $13 million of the $25 million call. So based on current market rates, that will reduce the interest rate on the existing bond from about, that currently sits about 3.9 to 4.1 to a rate of 2.6 interest rate of yield at that point. Again, based on current interest rates and moving forward with the potential refunding of the $12 million bond, that will result in lowering our debt service costs to the wastewater bond, or wastewater fund, by $600,000 a year over the next 11 years. The reduction in bond service costs for year 12 through 14 is much higher. It's $4.9 million because that $12 million call that we are placing or redeeming relates specifically to those fiscal years, the year 12 through 14. So with those savings, and again based on current market rates, the anticipated present value savings, if we move forward with this plan, is $5.3 million. So this is a chart showing the comparison of the $25 million bond call that we are calling and what the refunded bond would potentially look like. You'll notice that the refunded bond is at $11.3 million, showing that it was priced as a premium. It creates a savings of true interest costs of 18 basis points. You'll see that significant decrease in bond service costs, the 4.3 compared to 18.1, a $22 million reduction in costs, and again, that present value savings of $5.3 million. This chart shows the debt service over the next 11 years. Again, we talked about the $600,000. The green bar is the debt service of the $25 million, and the gray bar is the amounts of the debt service going forward to 2030. So moving forward, we're asking council to first approve this refunding plan as presented by staff, taking $12 million in reserves in the wastewater fund and refinancing $13 million. We're also asking us to approve those two agreements that are necessary to move forward with this refinancing, including bond counsel and it's actually an amendment to the disclosure council agreement. The plan is to have the preliminary official statement and all the related bond documents available for review and approval to the council in January 2020, with the close of the refunded bond in June of 2020. So with that, I am available for any questions.
Thank you. Any comments or questions from colleagues? Seeing none, Vice Mayor.
Well, I'd like to thank staff for always looking for opportunities to save money. And with that, I'd like to make a motion to approve staff recommendation.
You have a motion. Please cast your votes.
Motion is approved.
Thank you. And next item, please.
We have council and mayor statement.
Thank you. Councilmember Rivera.
Thanks, Mayor. Real quick, before the council meeting started, I got a call from Lily Parker at the Bakersfield Senior Center on 4th Street, and she indicated that I think their roof may be caving in or is about to cave in at the Senior Center, and I'm hoping that staff can reach out to her tomorrow, and if there is something we can do to help maybe alleviate that in the immediate, I would appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilmember Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to reinforce on the homeless, the motion last week was to explore, I believe, all options, or what else was available, and I don't know that staff really looked at partnering with the homeless center with the knowledge of high-speed rail closing on their property and them essentially having the ability to have 2 sites for quite a few years. They have at least 5 years, and with high-speed rail, possibly 20 years at the existing site, and they already own other property and expansion, and so their ability to get to 500 or 600 beds and to partner with them may also be a solution. And I would like staff to look at that as we're looking at other solutions. So that was one thing, and then the other was I had a constituent or many constituents complain about the Allen Road Bridge, and I know I spoke to staff, and it's becoming, or has been for some time, quite a safety hazard as you bounce across there. And I know we've looked at it, but if that could be put in next year's capital budget, I don't know what the timing was, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Any other requests to speak? Seeing none, thank you all for being here. The meeting stands adjourned at 6:05.